going live again. So we'll see if this works.
All right, do it to it.
All right, we are live again. Ben, let me know if you see it on your side. I think we're already looking better. I see a chat over here. Send a
Well, keep being entertaining while I'm looking.
Well, no one's in here yet, I don't think so. We'll see.
For Jackson, for the start, just give me. I'll wait for your lead.
Okay. All right. Well, Ben, you see it? Looks good.
I'm not seeing this yet. I'm just seeing the old version. Let's see.
I see it on my end.
Good.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah.
It's letting you leave a chat.
Yeah, I trust it at this point. Let's just roll.
All right.
It is.
Ben or Matt, whenever you're ready to record, you can hit it.
All right.
Hey,
Here we go.
Jackson, I was going to say, I found a link I could pass you that when we start getting to talk about the new uniforms, it can kind of give a little glimpse into the inspiration.
Yeah,
Derrick,
send it to the chat. And Ben
can you
will-
just
Ben will
drop that in the comments? I'll get that pulled up.
Great. All right, Matt, hit it whenever you're ready.
All right. Here we go. 3, 2.
All right. Welcome back, guys. We're in the off season, but we've got a great guest on. We're going to talk about Auburn basketball uniforms today. And we have the lead designer for our basketball uniforms on, Derrick Turner. And on top of that, we have another special guest. And he knew if we were going to basketball jerseys or any kind of jerseys in general with Auburn, we had to have Clint Richardson on of the Auburn Uniform Database. He is the expert. We are all novices compared to him when it comes to jerseys. So hopefully he'll have some really in-depth questions or some cool uniforms he can show us underneath his desk right now, as we saw before the call. So this will be exciting. We have a lot on. We got Matt on. We got Ben on. We got me on. Me and Ben are in our jerseys. Matt, I don't know what's wrong. Matt, he's not supporting the jerseys like I thought he would, but I know his dad's got a dope old one. Started, Derrick, welcome to the pod, and tell us about how you ended up at Under Armour and doing jersey design in general and how you ended up with Auburn.
Yeah, thank you, man. It's a pleasure being on. And Matt, actually, you're wearing one of the shirts I designed last year for Conference Champions for Auburn. So you're all good with me.
It's a great shirt.
Nice.
Well done.
Auburn, Under Armour. So yeah. Yeah, man, when it comes down to it, man, I've been doing my own versions of designing, whether it was sneakers or uniforms since I've been a kid. I remember one time when I was about 10, I think it was 1996 NBA All-Star game. I actually went and I had saw a picture of the uniforms before they actually played in them. I think it just from a Sports Illustrated, and I grabbed a old just a tank shirt, just like a old ribbed tank shirt, and grabbed a bunch of markers and redrew it and made me and my brother our own jerseys, and we dunked on one of the closet railings, and we were playing around like that. So I've been doing that stuff for a long time. And yeah, that path, just kind of my artistic talents, and went to school for design, just kind of led me here, just kind of natural passion of being in the sports, being definitely in the basketball, and then in the design world just kind of meshed together. When it comes to Auburn, when it comes to Under Armour, I've been here at Under Armour since 2016. And so started out with team sports. So we handle pretty much all of our collegiate and grassroots sports, and a lot of our hot market things that are all collegiate or team sports involved. I used to work on a lot of football, college football playoffs. I would assist in a lot of things that you would see on the sidelines for our special games. A lot of t-shirt graphics in my past, but the last few years, I'd say since right around I kind of judge it by COVID, but right around 20 is when I got the reins to basketball. So lead designer on basketball uniforms. And I've been doing that ever since. Yeah, just excited to be here and talk about my journey there. Especially, this season coming up is actually my first real chance of being able to design for like a full overhaul of uniforms for all of our Under Armour teams would be this time around. So yes, it's been exciting.
Every Auburn or every collegiate uniform, like what all teams would we know of that you're involved with?
Oh, all of our Under Armour collegiate assets. So you're talking Auburn, of course, Notre Dame, Northwestern, Navy, Wisconsin, South Carolina, Texas Tech, Utah. So
you end up with Auburn here. So because you're working on all collegiate uniform armor, what did you know about Auburn? Working on the jerseys, like how much have you had to learn? What did you know before? Anything like that?
When it comes to basketball, I stick pretty tight to the current. Don't know too much about the history of Auburn basketball on a real level. I could kind of tell you tell you what era certain like uniforms are in, that type of thing. But as far as the basketball goes, not too close to it. But I stick close to basketball just in general, just because I also work on March Madness every year. So work on the March Madness package. So called the winners package. So pretty much all of the championship shirts. Matt has one on right now. That's part of what we do here. And Auburn's, as of late, maybe not last year, but as of late, they've been in a pretty good spot in college basketball. And I think 19 or 20, they made the Final Four, and we're in one of my Final Four shirts. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, are there any like particular like or jerseys or shirts you've like designed that someone's worn? Like, I mean, last year Jabari Smith was wearing it, top 3 draft pick, future MVP of the NBA. Walker Kessler, close to being rookie of the year. There, is there any players you're like, holy, he is wearing my shirt, my jersey? I did.
Yeah, I mean, actually, so the last set of uniforms, basically before this year, the last cycle of uniforms for that 4 years, I didn't design, so I can't stake claim. But I did see the team in the practice uniforms from this past year. So we set up in all new practice uniforms, and just looking at the comments on IG and the high praise for a practice uniform of all things was pretty nice to see. So I love seeing them in that. And then also, like I said, in the Final Four from 2018, I actually cannot remember the phrasing that we had, but I think it said "made for this" or something like that, or something like it was a play on the word "for," FOUR. And they were great. They were great shirts, and yeah, men's basketball team wore them, and I've got hundreds of pictures. Just for portfolio reasons, just kind of stay, because I just loved how it looked, how it came out.
Portfolio reasons, got it. All right, no, it's cool. Keep your up, be proud of your own stuff. Yeah, I know Clint's got some questions here.
Yeah, so I mean, we've already seen Wisconsin's new uniforms this year, and notice that it's on a new template. So are you involved with the template design? And as far as the template and then the design itself for what we see the teams wearing, what's that process look like? How long does it usually take from, meeting with the team, kind of going over what direction they want to go, to designing it, to seeing it actually come to fruition on the basketball court?
Yeah, so as far as the template is handled, that is handled by our wonderful apparel designers. So they are responsible for our cut and sew, getting the fit right, getting the new look of the jersey, the new shaping of the jersey, getting that all together, determining the inseam on the shorts, how short they'll be, how long they'll be, what the jersey shaping is going to be like, where the logos will sit, things like that. They're primarily responsible for that, and we kind of work as a team through that development, working with working with what these schools will deliver us as far as like their wants and needs. So we have like a needs analysis that we send out, and really kind of just trying to get a feel for what the team is looking for. Oftentimes that sometimes it comes straight from the coach. The feedback comes straight from the coach. Other times it'll be from the equipment manager. Sometimes it might be even higher up, and like they might have a standard for like, this is what we're looking to see. Some coaches are like, we just kind of want something like, we want something fun. We want something brash. I'm a bold coach. I want something that feels like that. Some guys are like, hey, like we like to keep it classic around here. We want to, we have a defined aesthetic here, and we're proud of our heritage, and this is what we want to kind of stick with. And so, yeah, it all depends on the school. It all depends who we're getting the feedback with. We'll have our talks back and forth with the school. Our marketing team handles that, and and then we go to work and try to fit everything together, make it make sense.
Yeah, that was going to be my question was how much feedback do you get from the players? Because I don't know if you recall a couple of years back in the NBA when they tried to get this crazy trend going of wearing like the tight t-shirt style. And we had that infamous scene of LeBron James ripping the armpits out because it was messing with his shot mid-game.
Yeah. We get feedback from players from time to time. It's usually never formal, unless it's a part of a program that we have every season called By the Players. So so far, Auburn has not been a part of the By the Players program, but By the Players is basically a uniform that is designed for the players by the players. And basically what we do is I set up a 60-minute call, and it's designer, a product line manager usually, and we are talking straight to the players. Usually they are going to be usually sophomores and juniors, like who are going to be the seniors who are going to be wearing those jerseys when they, 18 months after they talk to us, and when they actually come out. That 18-month cycle is a huge thing. We talk to them, and they literally just say like, hey, like, we want the jersey to look like this. I remember this from my childhood. I really love the way this, this Vancouver Grizzlies, jersey in '96. I love that. Like, can we get this, and can we do this? And like, I like, I like our, the name of our school, but like, can we try something different? Can we, instead of or example, instead of like having Auburn on our chest, like, can we just have War Eagle or something like that? You know what I mean? So it's all just a play off of what the players want. So far, the schools that have participated have been primarily Northwestern. It's been something that we've been doing with their senior squad from, I think, 2014. So this is before I joined in Wisconsin the last 3 or 4 years. But we're trying to expand that, trying to see if we can get some other teams to bite. It guarantees them an extra alternate uniform every year. So but that's probably one of the coolest parts of every season, especially since before this past season, designing these new uniforms and new overhaul. It was very much about the special game uniforms and the alternates for me.
You mentioned that teams give you feedback if they like it classic or if they want something on the bleeding edge. I don't know if you were involved with Auburn or not, or if you've gotten notes from what Auburn said. Is Auburn saying like, keep it classic, keep it fun, push the envelope? What are you hearing about Auburn? How'd that influence the future uniforms that are coming up?
Well, I do know that, just from an athletics standpoint, period, Auburn does keep it very classic. They do. They love their power stripe. They love that stripe. And I know you guys love we'll talk about it later. But yeah, that power stripe right there on your chest, on your shoulder, man. They love that power stripe. And they usually stick pretty close to the vest. Even on the football side, there's not a lot of exploration into trying out some different things. But you got to respect that. Like they're SEC. Alabama does the same. They never stray away from their uniforms. They like to keep things kind of pretty close to the vest for them and what they're known for. And you got to respect that. teams like Ohio State, same thing.
Clint, what can you tell us about the power stripe in general, Clint? I feel like we all know it, we all love it's on a lot of our stuff, but I don't actually know any history behind the power stripe or anything. Can you talk about it without saying the F word? Is that an impossible task?
Yes, absolutely it is. Derrick, I don't know what you guys call it on the inside, but I know from, historically it's always been called the Northwestern stripe. And, I tend to stick to that terminology myself as well. But it first appeared on the F word team uniforms in the 50s and showed up on the helmets and the jerseys, and then eventually made its way onto the pants. And it's been that way since, I want to say, just off the top of my head, since 1956. So, it's been half a century that we've been using that stripe, and the basketball teams have been trying to utilize it more. It's been Under Armour has really been using it across the entire athletic department for years now, and it's just always such a good look, and it's a identifiable thing for Auburn. It's just like Tennessee and their checkerboard, or Ohio State and their Buckeye leaves. It's when you look at those stripes, even though I know they're Northwestern stripes, but that's why they keep calling it the power stripe. That's just Auburn's trademark at that point.
Yeah.
Northwestern's brand is so bad. I'm gonna have to look up their uniforms to even see like the inspiration. But
let's talk, if we can, about a departure that we did with some success recently, because I have here one of our jerseys from the Final Four run. Nary a power stripe to be found on this throwback to, I believe, the 80s. Is that right, Clint?
Yes, that was throwing back to the Charles Barkley 1984 season, and with some slight caveats, but man, it was such a strong look and such a good one.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a quick. Matt, you got to enable screen share for me. But I'm gonna pull this up while we're waiting for Matt to get that in place. But you can see. Now it's trying to blur me out here because I'm blurring the background. But our stripe down the side here is just a dual orange and white stripe. And as soon as I can screen share, I'm going to take you to Clint's website, the Auburn University Uniform Database. We're going to check this out here. Yeah, you can see the matching, and a little bit more clearly than me trying to hold this jersey up. But you can see the similarities between these jerseys here from the 80s and what we wore on our Final Four run, which were designed by Under Armour.
Mm-hmm.
I'm learning something today. I had no idea about that it was 80s uniforms. That's great.
See, Derrick, you're not the only one that doesn't know your Auburn basketball history.
I was going to ask, that's interesting that you bring up that it's 1980s inspired. I'm just curious, Auburn uniforms or sports uniforms, we don't think of them as fashion necessarily, but they are own specific subculture and fashion. We all can see the different trends out on the street or amongst the teenagers. Oh no, the teenagers are bringing back the low-rise jeans, or Gen Z's doing that or whatever. We can look back at so many funny uniforms. We could talk about the 1950s really tight gymnastics wear kind of thing. We could talk about the 70s, 80s short shorts, and then the huge backlash to the short shorts, the absolutely obnoxious like mid 2000s shorts that were almost pants, and the humongous jerseys, and even the uniforms they would wear. I wanted to hear about the trend, I think recently. And I remember there was an LSU guy a couple years back that he didn't start the short shorts trend, in my opinion, but a lot of players reacting maybe 5 to 10 years ago to man, those long baggy shorts, they're really not sports necessarily. And they started shrinking them up and rolling them up even themselves. And now it's kind of the norm. It's not as short as it was in the 70s and 80s, but it's starting to keep inching up but at some point we'll see backwards again. Are you seeing any particular trends and uniforms that are coming in? Are we still going shorter and tighter? Are we getting baggy again? What?
Absolutely, man. When it comes down to it, man, sports fashion is definitely a reflection of everyday fashion, street fashion. It's almost one for one when you think about it. Even when you think about how large the shorts got in the early to mid 2000s, and then
at 5, baby.
Yeah, but when you go back and think about it, look at your friends at school, how big their pants were, how big their shirts were at that time. It mirrored, the short shorts were short in the 80s because shorts were actually shorts in the 80s, you know. It's really just a reflection of it, of that. And when you think about it, when street fashion, that when it comes down to it, the fashion that we wear every day, like that's cyclical, and for sports is cyclical as well. So you'll see times where it's like, okay, like fashion got really crazy in the 80s and 90s, or especially in the 90s, with like just kind of just doing a little bit of everything. Like there was kind of no holds barred. It's like the crazier you can do it, the more colors, it was really very unabashed. And then but you look at the clothing that people were wearing in the 90s, the Zubaz pants and things like it matched that feel, right? And then when you think about how pants just seem like they just kept getting tighter about 10 years ago, and 5 years ago, and now the everything is like being a little bit more tapered, and things are being a little bit more fitted. Well, the uniforms are matching that way as well. So it's I think it's all just a reflection of what we see on the outside.
Are you seeing a trend heading towards a certain direction thing right now? Any kind of definitive, like we are starting, like you said, we're doing an overhaul of uniform, kind of Under Armour.
Yeah,
are you seeing like in the meetings, like people pushing, like, hey, let's give, it's a little on the forefront, but it's coming. Yeah.
I mean, I think what you'll see from our brand and from other brands as well, I think but it's we're also trying to we're trying to make sure we're doing what's right for, and we're basically dressing these kids who are 18, 19, 20 years old. These are the athletes that we're dressing. You know what I mean? Like they got to feel good to so they can play good. And I think it's one of those things where the trends are always going to be how can we stick to what we are, like to who we are as a brand, right? But then also kind of give a little leeway to what's going on in fashion, and what these kids care about, what our consumer is really about. So I think what you'll see coming soon is, if you notice, I think the trend is going a little clean. It's going a little more simplified. Things are starting to be toned down a little bit. Things are definitely becoming more classic. You're getting a lot of requests for uniforms to, for people to, for teams to go back to, like, why don't you go back to your throwback uniform? Your throwback uniform is so much better than the current uniform you have. Why don't you just do that? When you see these NFL uniforms come out, and it's, the NFL, the new throwback for the season looks way better than their normal everyday, home and away. And, fans, I think, are wanting a stark contrast from what they've been getting. And so I think you'll start to see things just slowly just get simplified. And then, inevitably the cycle will start to push back the other way. But yeah.
Have you seen the Kanye West Donda Academy basketball uniforms? They're almost completely black with a dove on them. Have you seen that before?
I actually have not, and I need to check those out.
He's on.
No, you don't
speak whatever you want about him, but like it's just he pushes the fashion forward a lot, or he has traditionally. Yeah. And so I thought that was so interesting to see. Theirs almost looks like practice uniforms, and it made me wonder: is that the future is going to be? He fails at times too. So
yeah, no, I've seen that as well. Like I check sites like Uniswag, things like that all the time, and one thing I've seen definitely this year a lot with a lot of new uniforms, people are saying they look like practice uniforms, or they'll say there's nothing to them. And then you'll see another comment and they're like, oh my God, those are fire. They're so clean, right? So those are clean, crisp. They're like, that's what we want, and then somebody else is like, it's so basic, right? It's so basic, it looks like a practice uniform. So it's like, I think you'll never make everyone happy or satisfied, but you do want to make sure that the guys playing in your uniform, the guys and girls playing in your uniforms are comfortable and feel like they look good.
I know I've been asking a lot of questions here, but do you think this jersey combo will back? Am I sharing my screen? Do we think this is coming back here anytime soon?
The jersey and pants.
Has everyone seen this before?
I hope not.
Yes.
I don't know if this is I would hope this is photoshopped.
No, that's real.
Photoshop.
Oh my God.
It's infamous uniforms. If you're on the audio and you're not watching the YouTube or anything like that, this is a famous former St. Bonaventure star, Marquise Green. Look it up. He's wearing an all brown uniform. His shorts look like pants, like
Oh my God.
Zumba
Yeah.
pants or whatever, flood pants or Jinko jeans had
Yes.
back in the day, on
Yes.
top of a tucked in, also large jersey and a headband. And it is quite the look.
Yeah, those shorts have to be 4XL.
He
Like-
actually, I think he had a tear in his original shorts or had a blood stain on them, but those are not his assigned shorts, thankfully.
Oh, okay.
Which
Okay.
just makes it even funnier, I think.
Yeah.
Clint's in here to bust my bubble. I thought this was the fashion. And to be fair, it seems like it was headed this way at one point and they
It
pulled
was.
it back. So
Well,
It
and
was.
if you have any interest in the obscurities of sports uniforms, Clint has whole entire sections about the blood jerseys, because our teams, they all have an extra jersey around for tears or if something gets blood on it, so you can sub some people in. You might remember Michael Jordan's infamous game where he wore, what was it, 56? Because it was a 12 when his jersey got stolen out of his locker. So there's all kinds of fun stuff to check out on Clint's website. But look, we've been looking back. It's time to look forward. Let's talk about what's next for Auburn basketball uniforms.
Nice. Well, what's next is a full new set of uniforms coming up this fall. So I guess when the season starts in November. So we got new home and away and alternate for men's basketball, and then women's basketball we've got home, away, alternate, power and pink, and a throwback. And the throwback for women's basketball will be based off of the I don't know if you guys remember player 1984, I believe, Ruthie Bolton.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we remember Ruthie.
So they're getting their Ruthie Bolton throwbacks. It'll be a white one,
Awesome.
so they'll be wearing it at home. So it's pretty nice.
Those are going to be available in the team shop, right?
I can't call that, but I mean, they're nice enough. They should. They're nice.
Thank you, Derrick. We need you to lean on the university a little bit here and get us more swag in the shops.
Man, you know what, man? You know, there's some schools that are just like really, really big on trying to like make sure that what they have on court is available for their teams, and some schools are just I couldn't sway anybody on my end.
is this the uniform you're talking about, the inspiration here with Ruthie Bolton?
Yep, that is exactly the uniform. So that's
Awesome.
actually we used a slightly different color orange. So the orange that we use typically is like a kind of a darker orange for the school. So we've got a very kind of like light orange to fit the actual aesthetic at that time. And yes, it's pretty much a 1-for-1 look as much as we can to this uniform.
Are we going to see the hem of the bottom of the jersey striped like this one, or is that going to be incorporated in some fashion?
No, that you will not see. And that's also given that players will get what I think a technical foul if like shirts tucked and things like that. So we try not to go that far. Especially when it's not going to be visible. For our players.
Is someone going to tell KD Johnson about that? I love KD to death, but he cannot keep his shirt tucked in.
He can't handle the energy out there.
No, it's true, and the jersey cannot contain him. So, Derrick, I got a quick question for you, because you're a designer. You're a guy who really puts a lot of thought and intention behind your jersey designs, but then the players get out there and we're talking sweatbands, we're talking headbands, we're talking wristbands, we're talking shooter sleeves. How do you feel about the players accessorizing when they're on the court?
I love it. Like that's the ultimate like player expression, right? Because in reality, like what are they getting? What are they all wearing? They're wearing uniforms. When you think about the word uniform, when someone says, "Hey, it's a very uniform thing to do," it means everyone's looking the same, and players want to find ways to be their own man, be their own woman, and have themselves stand apart. So whether it's adding something, whether it's, for a lot of women, they might, roll their bands. They might, do something with their jersey armholes, or some might be wearing tights under. They might be wearing it's I think it's as much as they want to do. I'm all for that. Like that's like I think that's the ultimate self-expression. And just kind of letting someone know that, like, hey, like I'm here. You know what I mean? I'm a part of this team, but I'm me. You know what I mean? And that's what young people like to do, right? So.
Oh yeah. You sent us some of your inspiration for our upcoming jerseys. You mind if I share this link out where everybody can take a look at it real quick?
Oh, no problem. No problem.
Yeah, this is the one, right?
Yeah. And we're talking.
Yeah.
So
you're using this as inspiration. You're using this.
So this was part of the inspiration for the new men's Auburn uniforms that we'll be seeing. So this has like a typical kind of 3-tiered stripe. They're using at the bottom of the short. We are incorporating the power stripe in here, and just still trying to maintain the current aesthetic of the word mark and numbers and fonts like that, but heavily inspired by how clean this was. And this was actually I want to say Barkley's freshman year. And then that sophomore year, they switched into the jersey that we were just looking at earlier with the two stripes down the side, the 2-bar stripe. But so home and away are going to kind of have a very classic feel, kind of in this tone. But for the orange alternates that we're doing, we're kind of tying back to the second jersey that he did wear with the stripes going all the way down the side. So you'll get a little bit of both eras, but kind of going back and trying to find a new way to do a retro, right? Like it's kind of like a not modernized retro.
Now I understand that we're probably set for the upcoming season, but if we could give you a little more inspiration, we want to talk to you about bringing back the tiger stripes as an alternate uniform look.
I've seen this.
We're trying to get a grassroots effort here. It's the 25th anniversary coming up. This is one of those crazy moments in fashion. This has had this love-hate situation, and about a little bit more about this, but these tiger stripes on what would you call this right here?
Oh, the armband, it's like armhole band, and like the trim.
The trim. Yeah. So this has had like a love-hate relationship. I think when it first came, one of the best teams that ever played at Auburn, won the SEC, number 1 seed.
Yeah, Chris Porter played in this jersey.
Chris Porter, the Flying Tigers. People remember that before the Bruce Pearl era. This was the team. I mean, we had Charles Barkley, but this was like one of those teams of Cliff Ellis, and people loved it at the time. Very cool, very 90s, extremely 90s. Then just 5-10 years later, oh, those ugly Tigers are how tacky, how whatever, the fashions, they move along. And I just feel on the 25th anniversary of the hats coming back, the 90s love coming back, that the tiger stripes on the trim is just now hitting. College kids would go absolutely nuts to bring back this like loud tiger stripe. And I know you're saying everybody's going clean, but man, it's on, I guess, a vintage game, and they would sell like hotcakes. Everyone would buy one.
Oh, yeah. But you know what? The uniform itself is like very, very simple, very classic in a sense. The uniform itself, it's just the trim. The trim is a little different. The numbers and word mark, it's a little wonky. But it, like something like that, like doing that in the trim, that is definitely something to take back to the team. Something to discuss. It's definitely something to discuss.
Yes, this is all we wanted to hear. And I just can't like the Auburn basketball nerds or whatever. I know Clint, you're probably would get hyped too, but I just can't imagine if like a couple games before we're going to honor the 25th anniversary team, people start passing around, man, these Tiger jerseys, they were so dope. What if our dude Broom came out and dunk down and alley-oop dunk down like the Flying Tigers used to? I would, oh my God, if they came out the tunnel in that tiger stripe, I would lose my mind. I just feel like people would go crazy, and we could stripe out the student section, stripe out the stadium. I don't know how it takes to turn around and make, but I'm just putting it into the ether, into the fan base, into everything.
Is it just the trim that like that really grabbed you, or is it more that team and like getting like a perfect retro for that team itself? Or is it just like, I love the trim, I would love to see that explored, and like I don't really care for the uniform itself, but I just love the trim. Like where
it's
are you?
Both. It's both. It feels like the fashion of it has come back at the same time that we can get nostalgic about it. It feels very Space Jam, the way people have like come back around. Bronze and Space Jam. People are Auburn's had this thing in the last year or two where they've done these like retro nights where they've had bucket hats. The kids went nuts for the bucket hats. People were like waiting in line for the bucket hats. And it's so, for us at our age, probably all in or so, it's kind of funny to watch the back. It was such a tacky thing for years. I just feel like this Tiger Stripes thing is one of those things. And a lot of this hype beast culture, a lot of this like VIP, like vintage jersey culture kind of thing. I'm sure you're seeing, Derrick. I'm sure you're seeing, Clint. Everybody else really. Everybody wants a cool vintage jersey to wear. It's fashion and supporting your team. I know I love a fashion like vintage thing. I just feel like it's coming around. I just feel like the kids would be waiting in line at midnight for the Tiger Stripe jersey.
Well, and to your point, Derrick, yes, I mean, it is a nostalgia for the design, but also that team, that 99-2000 team was one of the last times Auburn made the postseason until Bruce Pearl came, and just recently Auburn made it back into the tournament. So, it was a long, dark time of, bad teams and bad uniforms. And it's just something that Auburn fans can grasp onto. It's that nostalgia as well. Speaking of those bad designs, I have this one from, I want to say like 2002. So it's a little different, but the striping is along the side. It's still on the collar. This is
and that's you said that's from 2002, right?
2002-ish. Yeah, the early 2000s were just a hideous time, and they changed every year. I mean, just look at this number font. Like, it's just bad. But I mean, I dubbed that the dark ages of Auburn basketball uniforms at one point.
Yeah, I was hoping we could see that that's actually the title of the link to this on auburnuniforms.com.
Yeah. Can we share
the dark
that?
ages?
Go for it.
Let me go back and reshare this here.
There's a couple of worse ones on there.
It's funny how fashion can be. It can turn on the dime. I like my fashion. I'm very specific about my fashion, and it frustrates the mess out. It frustrates anybody that ever wants to buy me any kind of clothing, because you can show them something that for you is just hits just right. Like these Tiger Stripe jerseys, and the ones from the 1998-99 team just hit right. But then Clint shows you the two. Clint shows you the new one, and it's just off by a little bit. It's not quite right, And then there's also, I hope you have on here. There they are. The white Tiger Stripe ones with the little Tiger Stripes on here. Now these I still think they might be cool, but they're not as cool as the 98-99.
So here's the thing about this one. Like, as you can see, the word mark has the cat scratches in the middle of it. That pattern on the collar and the armbands is not the same as what's on the Tiger Stripes. I kind of described it as more like an Aztec, that kind of pattern. It's not Tiger Stripes. It's a little bit more jaggedy. So I don't know what happened in Russell. I mean, both of these, the number font, that word mark font, were Russell proprietary fonts. So something was going on in this time period in Alexander City, just up the road from Auburn, with Russell just kind of throwing whatever they wanted out. Cliff Ellis, head coach, was obviously all for it. I mean, this thing is so classic, with the simple striping on the side, the very classic shorts design. But then when it comes to the collar, the armbands, the number, and that word mark, it's just they just ran off the rails with this one.
It's like
we're looking
very good bag.
Yeah.
we're looking good. We're looking great. Okay, it's getting a little weird, and then just completely off the rails.
The crazy one, it's hard. And like, you guys, if you're listening online, I'm sorry. I know this is a visual based podcast, but you're right. It's not quite Tiger Stripes. No. It's like got some triangles and things. Like, I assume they were going for Tiger Stripes, but do you remember those? There's some pants back in the 90s called like Zoom. Was it?
Yeah, Zubas.
I think that going for there. that like white and black Zumba pant situation.
Yeah, it's kind of similar, but then the next couple of seasons they went back to the original traditional tiger striping look, and it was just that one off, and it was only worn for a season, and then they replaced the collar and the word mark, and it was just weird.
They went really generic for a while.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, and this is kind of the cool thing to me, not to call anybody out on this podcast, but we do have some folks talking here about how they don't really have a connection with Auburn basketball history. And I know a lot of people, when we debuted those jerseys we went to the Final Four in, didn't realize that those were callbacks to a greater time in Auburn basketball in the 80s, when we were a much better and well thought of program, when we had guys like Charles Barkley coming through. So it's kind of cool that these uniforms, they're not just about a fashion statement or about the simple ability to play ball well. It's connecting you to your history and connecting you to your program's culture.
Yeah, and UniWatch and Paul Lucas say it all the time that a throwback uniform is effectively just telling your story, telling your history of your program. And I know we're talking basketball here, but that other team that's about to start back up, has I know it's been the same since the 50s and the 60s, but you go further back and we've got just a wild, Auburn, I'll say it, Auburn football, uniform history. And
we'll beep it in post, Jackson.
Okay, that works. But I think if Auburn wanted to do something different, and I get the calls all the time of let's do an alternate uniform, I don't care for the Oregon-esque craziness of it all. I want to see the throwbacks. I want to see the history telling of Auburn and what we can do with that. One of the first articles I actually did on my website was how to slowly build an alternate uniform. And each year we start with a different piece. Like year one, we start with the orange face mask. Year two, we do the 1990s orange drop shadow. And then we go to blue pants, and then we go to an orange jersey, and just slowly every year, whether it's a homecoming or a cupcake game or whatever, just slowly putting pieces together, making it a small expense, kind of warming people up to the idea and just showcasing the history. Go all out with it. We're going to tell the story about the orange jerseys the day that Auburn wears the orange jerseys, and that kind of thing. I think that that's something that we don't see a lot with a lot of teams. Derrick, I'd be interested to see what kind of information you're getting from teams. Do they want the more different looks, or are they looking to kind of tell their own history, or is it cyclical like everything else?
Yeah, see, I'm big on like telling your history.
Absolutely.
Especially when a lot of fans, especially students, like they have no idea of what went on yesteryear. And I feel like there's a lot of value in bigging up your the history of a school and history of a sport at that school. Auburn is not usually known for their basketball, so doing something like celebrating a 25th anniversary or a 50th anniversary, like I think when teams don't do that, I feel like it's a huge miss.
Absolutely.
When since I've been doing uniforms, there's been a couple of schools that we have that I feel like they dropped the ball a couple of times as far as like with the opportunity to really tell a great story through uniform. And but it's really not our call to to tell them like this is what you're wearing this year. We work together, and we might have a suggestion if but ultimately it's their call. And I feel like, I always feel like it's a huge miss whenever you don't make a call back to that. And yeah, I think there's so much value in telling that story, monetarily and just building on your brand.
Yeah.
It's a huge thing that you don't want to miss out. So for me, throwbacks are always one of my favorite things to do. You would think it's like, oh, throwback is really easy. The work's already done. The uniform already exists, but a lot of times the elements don't. And so, we'll have to go and like recreate those elements, recreate those word marks from scratch or those numbers. So I'll
Been there, done that.
full number systems, or I'll recreate full alphabets, so that we can make sure that I'm big on authenticity. I would never want to do a throwback that is like a version of, I'm very big on like, hey, if we're going to do this throwback, let's really do this throwback. Like, what did the player name, what font did they use in the player name on the back? How big were the numbers? Like, let's not go, like if the numbers were, let's just say a 4-inch number, but the standard is 6. Let's not do standard 6 if we can go for a 4 to match up with that. If the word mark is pretty large, let's try to expand it to the point that we can. There's going to be a point where we got to stop, but let's try to do that. Let's, instead of like, hey, let's do this Ruthie Bolton throwback and just throw it in the current Auburn colors when that dark orange wasn't a thing in the 80s. Like, let's try to go for an orange that fits that mold and really try to tell that authentic story. Like, I feel like it's a waste if you're not trying to be authentic.
Well, I appreciate the attention to detail, absolutely. And, I can't tell you how many times, my friends and I are, the forums that I join are just, kind of nitpicking anything that's just beyond, the modernization of it. It's, this shade is just off, or this lettering is just off. So, your work is not unnoticed. I'll let you know that.
Thank you, man. Thank you, man. To be honest, oh no, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, it's a huge relief to hear somebody talk about the uniforms and the care that go into it in this way. I'm sure you're not immune to some of the criticisms of certain brands on social media, and the Auburn family can be loud at times and not always in the kindest way. Do you have any interest in wading into a little bit of controversy here with some logo questions?
No, go ahead.
All right, which is your favorite Auburn logo?
My favorite Auburn logo. I'd have to say the AU, the classic.
The interlocking AU.
I use it all. I use it like so. I can tell you guys this when I'm designing for, like, let's say it's a Final Four shirt, right? I'll use Auburn oftentimes just because I feel like they got two really great colors that contrast really well, the orange and the blue. And then also the logo is I love the proportions of the AU and how you can overlap it over text and things like that. So I tend to kind of use Auburn as like as my sample team when I'm creating graphics, even though Auburn might never even, we might never actually make that shirt for Auburn, but I might use them. So I do that pretty often with Auburn.
Okay.
Some
Clint,
of these I've never seen, by the way.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, Clint, have you hung out or talked to or have been in contact with the Warrior guy Jeremy before?
Yeah, Jeremy is a good friend, and
we gotta get Jeremy on. And Clint, I'm glad this is some like historical stuff. Like, I've never seen some of these logos. Derrick, I don't know. I assume you haven't seen some of these old school ones in here.
So this is an interesting story that I don't know if we have time to dig into it too much tonight, but in the 1990s, I think this was 1995, Auburn decided they wanted to throw the AU out. It was old and didn't want to do it anymore. So they brought in students and design faculty to suggest new concepts. And I think it was 2 professors of design came up with like 48 different variations of the logo, including these that you see here. And thank God it got knocked out because these are horrendous. But I actually, with Jeremy's permission, wrote a subsequent post related to this one a couple of years ago that I went through, and like Derrick, you were saying, I went and redid every single logo and I mocked them up on a helmet, and yeah, they're not good.
No.
Okay, but Jackson,
Clint, this might be a good time if you have alts. Like, I know I've seen the alt basketball jerseys on your site before. If you get those like prepped up, I know Ben's got some more questions, but if you want to present some of your alts to Derrick, I mean, I don't want to like throw things at Derrick constantly, but I think it'd be a cool thing for you guys to go through a couple of your suggestions, Clint, if that's like cool with you.
I mean,
yeah,
absolutely.
Clint, get those pulled up. So here's another little controversy for you, Derrick. All right, are you a fan of the Flying Tiger or of the Eagle A?
I'm not a fan of the Flying Tiger. I don't.
Oh,
that's coming back, baby.
No.
It's coming back.
It's a
But
good thing Ryan's not on the pod tonight.
have you guys seen the logo where it's like the oval and it has the tiger's eyes in it?
Yep.
That's one
I
of
was
my
good. I was gonna ask. I was gonna say that one's one of those cusp of fashion situations. Ben's wearing it on his head right now as a bandana.
yes,
People
yeah.
have hated it over the
Oh,
last
yeah,
like 15 to 10 years.
It's a love or hate logo with a
But
lot of fans here.
it's coming back, I think. I think the fashion of it, the early thousands of it, I think is coming back.
I
like
moved back to Alabama in the early 2000s, and this logo was everywhere. So this logo has a special place in my heart.
Yeah, no, I love it. It for me, like graphically, like it works really great as a tonal as a tonal hit. And I've used it before in like non-on court and on field graphics. So you might have seen it maybe in a bookstore type of stuff. But yeah, no, I'm a fan of it. And honestly, most of the time we have to stick with the schools like primary mark. But whenever I get a chance to go outside of that, I'm always pushing for that. So that A with the eagle, like I love that. Oh yeah.
People love this.
I have now changed into my alternate, which is my hoodie from 90s night and the Eagle A, which is another one of my favorite.
You just might be, Derrick, you just might be a little ahead of the game, honestly, with the tiger eye thing, because like I said, I've been wearing the jumping tiger for a couple years now. People used to not like the jumping tiger, comes back, like Ben's wearing it. People love that hoodie from the vintage night there at the jump. I think if you started using the tiger eyes anytime in the next year heavily, it would cause a stir. There's still a lot of like people that are like, no, we officially have decided that the tiger eyes are tacky. And that's when the young kids, the teenagers and things will bring it back to dead and to piss off their old parents. Like, it's like Crocs. Once your grandparents knew Crocs weren't cool, that they were tacky, that's when it around again. Yeah, I think it's the same thing with the tiger eyes. It'll be another year or two.
And if you're a fan of the tiger eyes, we want to pitch you on these tiger stripe jerseys one more time, because take a look right there at your center belt logo.
Yeah, you know what?
The devil's in the details, baby.
It's all about placement, and it's all about size and placement. So I think there's opportunity for the AU. I think there's opportunity for the winged AU. Like that hat is really dope, man. But I'm not really feeling the tiger eyes like right on the waist. That's
it's looking right at you.
I think I did something a little different. I actually think that it would look great, like back neck, like above the type, like that. I think that would look pretty good. That throwback though, I can say this. You were talking about the tiger stripes. So what you will see in a very subtle way, because what we've done is we went about it in a subtle way. The women's basketball team. So we really want to try to make a distinction between our women's and men's basketball teams. When we can, especially if there's schools where let's say like a school like South Carolina, like South Carolina women's basketball is like the way they do things is completely separate from the men's side. They even have a rule where the South Carolina men's team, they will not allow the women's team to use just the term like Carolina on their uniforms. They force the women's team to put South Carolina so that the men can own Carolina alone. So it's like they're very separate. So we treat them like, their uniforms are going to be separate. With Auburn, I would say women and men's, what you'll see is they kind of have a similar feel, but we wanted to make sure that they each kind of got its own flavor. And we did incorporate some tiger striping into the women's uniform.
All right. You'll never see more support for the women's jerseys than now, man.
Yeah.
Where
it's tonal. It's tonal. It's tonal. It's going to be kind of a detail. It's kind of be something when you when you get a little closer to it, you'll check it out. But
is that going to be in the embroidery, or is that going to be on the body, or?
No, it's going to be on the body, mostly in which you'll see it in the bottom of the shorts and the top of the shoulder.
Okay.
Top of the shoulder and back. So just kind of the accent on the uniform.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I've got the collection in the closet and behind me, but I've got one of the mid 2010s uniforms from the women's team, and both the men's and women's teams both wore very similar uniforms, and they had the numbers, like you would never notice it unless you were within like 3 inches of it, but it's tone on tone, blue on blue tiger striping.
Nice, nice. And I love like being able to do stuff like that too. Like it's some of those things, those details are some, things that you'll only catch, on an IG post, or like, on a promo from a photo shoot or something like that. So you might not catch it on
and that's what I live for.
Lighting, you know what I mean? But it's like it's a nice little accent. It's it's a nice little nod without being too over the top. So
well, and that's one of my favorite things about basketball uniforms versus some of the other sports. I think we all remember the University of Florida's F-word disaster with their Gator themed uniforms that were Gator skin, but they were green colored, which is not really one of Florida's colors. But then you go and look at their basketball uniforms, and it was color on color, but the detailed pattern was Gator skin, which obviously you may not notice that from the back of the stadium, but you can bet when the players were putting that armor on, they were feeling it.
Oh yeah. Like when you do it tastefully, like some things need to be tastefully done and don't need to be too much overkill. But like when you do it tastefully, like the fans can tell, and it feels like there's more thought into it than just throwing it, just slapping something on the wall type of thing.
So Derrick, it's time for Smash or Pass with some incredible alternates from Auburn Uniforms database.
Okay.
Here we go.
So every year we pull in it's a fun series I do during the summer, just for content, just to make people laugh. Call it the Crazy Concept Uniform Series, and I just take in the silliest, goofiest concepts people think of. I mean, we turned the other team into the Auburn Watermelons. Just they're dumb, so we have fun with them. So this was from this year. This was let's embody the baseball. Is baseball a bad word here, or is
no,
that
just you're right.
So this was to embody the baseball cream throwback look, and bring this onto the hard court, and I personally like it. So
Smash or Pass.
What do you think, Clint? Or Derrick, what do you think? We know what Clint thinks. He likes it.
I'm probably on a pass right now.
Probably
on a pass. I really like you guys orange. So like seeing it just like white and blue is kind of like that's the color I love.
I get that. I totally get that.
Really nice. Yeah.
It reminds me of peach ice cream. I really want some peach ice cream right now from that.
Honestly, it looks like a terrible jersey the NBA would make us wear on Christmas.
Boom, roasted.
Hold on on that one. So we know that the women's team's going throwback. So this was another throwback design-ish. If y'all know Auntie Chanel from she played under Coach Champy. She won championships with Auburn. She played with the Indiana Fever. So this is kind of a throwback based on that to honor her. But we throw in the script that Auburn did wear in the 90s, which was not great, and the shooting flaming basketball that was like the women's specific logo during the Coach Joe Champy era.
Wow. I'd say it's very creative. The logo on the shorts looks very much like tangerine, or
it does. It does.
Clementine with an Auburn.
Oh wait, it's the flying basketball. Ooh.
It is the flying basketball.
Yeah. No, it's a basketball. That's what they were going for. But
that could not be the worst part of it. Are we looking at the shirt right now, Derrick? That could not be the worst part of it.
You know what? What's funny is I know you're not probably a fan of the word mark, but something about the word mark is pulling me. I hate the dot over the I. That's like so unnecessary.
Yeah.
But I think there's some things that you could probably do. I don't know. There's something about it.
It's a really bad mixture of the Minnesota Twins T with the blockier font that Auburn used to the 90s. It's not a great mashup, but I think it has potential if somebody like you with your creative abilities can get a hold of it.
Gentlemen, I love the nerdy breakdown, but the game is not smash or take it out to a nice dinner and never call it again. It's smash or pass. We need some commitment here.
You know what? She's intriguing, but pass.
Okay.
Y'all aren't going to talk about the. It looks like he's wearing a uniform. She's wearing or not a uniform, a overalls. It's got a whole overall situation going on. That's the worst part.
So this was from last year. What if Auburn embodied the Miami Heat, Miami Vice Knight uniforms with, Miami's worn it with the pink to blue and vice versa. So we went orange to blue gradient, and it's definitely a unique look.
This might shock you, but I'd smash this.
Ooh, okay.
This is your first smash?
I'd smash this, but the execution of the word mark in the number that would have to change. Those numbers look like Heat numbers.
They are.
Okay,
This is a strictly let's copy it as much as possible.
Yeah. I mean, I think this has legs. It has legs.
There's no telling what Auburn's going to come out with next year at this point.
Yeah, here we go.
Derrick, you had my trust. It's all gone now.
Oh man, tumors.
So this one was also from last year of what if Auburn kind of played into the the MLB City Connect realm with let's connect to things that are local about the city, and Toomer's Corner right downtown with the famous Toomer's Lemonade. Let's just throw out the orange and let's go blue and yellow. It's hard to see in this one, but there are some sublimated ice cubes on the bottom of the shirt. So
oh no, that's cold.
It's
cold.
giving minor league baseball energy for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's fun. But I've got to pass.
Derrick, have you been able to enjoy an ice cold Toomer's Lemonade on a basketball Saturday?
I have not. I've been to Auburn on a football Saturday. I was there for the 2017 Iron Bowl. And
ooh, fun game.
I was there on the sideline. Auburn won that game. I want to say they were playing Tua. Was it Tua at the time, or no? I think it was Jalen Hurts was on the other side for the A team. When
you coming back?
Love my time there.
I can try some lemonade, and you might change your opinion on the smash or pass on this one.
Okay. But you know what? I love stuff like that, man. It looks crazy, but I'm a fan of just being able to insert a little bit more personality into uniforms, man. Like I don't know.
Clint, I really strongly believe. I know I said this gives minor league baseball energy. Baseball team came out in a version of this. I could see it selling. I could see people wearing the baseball version of this at parties or to the game with their kids. Or
I do have some minor league baseball concepts that are in the series. So if you want to see a Mama Goldberg's, that's one of them. So
how about that, Derrick? Have you had a Mama Goldberg's? Next time you come in town,
you gotta let us know,
do a pod and give you the right stuff.
Definitely.
All right, we're not a food podcast. Come on, guys.
We can talk Mama Goldberg's with that mama's love. Give me some of those nachos steamed up with the peppers. You can't get that in New York City, baby.
No.
All right, so this one gets a pass. What do we got next, Clint?
I know it's a different logo on the jerseys. This was part of the concept, so don't hate me on that one. But let's add that script logo that baseball and softball have been wearing. But let's also add some pinstripes, which don't often get a lot of love on the basketball court for good reason, probably. But
I'd probably carry that trim that's going on at the top into the short, but this would be a smash for me.
Okay.
Yeah, respect. I like it.
Anybody else?
Clint, how often do you have to think about the way things are going to look on TV when it comes to uniform design? Because I remember there was a disaster a few years back with the NFL Color Rush, where they had teams playing in the greens and reds that colorblind people cannot see.
Oh man.
Yeah, I don't have to think about it, thankfully. But Derrick, is that something that you guys?
Oh yeah, no, we do often. Actually, this past year we did a by the players uniform with Wisconsin that was really, really well loved by the fans. It was kind of almost like a whiteout type of uniform. And we had white numbers with red trim around it. So it was super light. And I want to say after the second game they wore them, I don't know if they were reported or whether the referees had an issue with them or whatever, but I think the conference came back to them, Big Ten conference came back to them and said they had to change the numbers because technically numbers are supposed to be solid color. So we had to change the numbers and we went to red with a white trim instead of the white with a red trim. And so they had to change the numbers mid season for their alternate. But I think they never lost in that uniform. But it was one of my favorites to do. But yeah, we've got to consider that. We've got a bunch of NCAA rules that we have to follow, and if we don't, things will get cut down.
Yep. There's a fun story from South Carolina before you joined Under Armour that I'm sure you've probably heard of inside those buildings, but with their F team.
Oh,
What
actually,
happened?
I probably haven't. I've got a story from last year.
Okay.
With their
Yeah.
women's basketball
So
team.
it was 2011. Auburn was traveling to South Carolina, and it was South Carolina's Wounded Warrior Project weekend. So they had special helmets and jerseys and pants that just had that Wounded Warrior, not quite camo, but textured pattern that they threw out on the stripes and in the numbers of the jerseys and the stripes that went, like I called them hamstring stripes back in the time, but it was like a 12 o'clock game, so there were very harsh shadows casting from the overhang of the stadium, and the team came out for pregame warmups, and the officials said, we cannot read these numbers at all. This was before, they just had to be legible. They didn't have to be completely solid or contrast entirely at this point. So they had to go back in and change to their usual black jerseys that just had solid white numbers. And so it's kind of a mismatch with, the Wounded Warrior helmet and pants, but not the jerseys. So it's there's another podcast where they interviewed the guy who actually designed that one, and he said it's the biggest blunder of his entire career.
Oh man,
So
yeah,
those things happen.
oh, it's rough, and yeah, like you said, they'll make you change. Like if they have the opportunity to, they'll make you change like right then and there.
Yeah.
I know for South Carolina's women's basketball team, we did a throwback that was actually had some baseball elements. It had a script South Carolina across the front, or actually script Gamecocks across the front, and they had pinstripes.
Oh yes.
Well, technically, in NCAA rule, when they want to to put their foot down on it, is there is basically a 12 by 12 box on the front of the jersey, where it's supposed to be free of design.
Oh,
So
wow.
nothing can go through. Even the numbers, oftentimes our numbers have to be centered to the jersey. They can't be to the left or to the right like the NBA has it, or a high school would. So the NCAA has a number of set rules, and they're very I'd say selective on when they want to enforce them. There's schools like UCF, Central Florida, who's had several versions of pinstripes, and they've been wearing them for years. And then South Carolina wears them on that.
We
Did
live?
lose him?
Oh, he
Just
froze
wore the
up.
uniform the year before. They wore them like 4 or 5 times the year before, and they couldn't do it anymore.
Jeez. All right, so we'll smash on this one. We got time for one more. So this last one,
Ooh.
what if Auburn honors the one and only, the round mound rebound, Charles Barkley, with a Phoenix Suns throwback? So again, this one is black and navy with some orange, and the word mark and the numbers are rendered in the same similar Phoenix font. So this one has been a fan favorite since it released a couple of years ago. So
yeah, no, that's one of my favorite uniforms all time NBA. If they were actually able to do this. I would smash this all day because I love this uniform. I just saw the new I guess Suns uniforms that will be coming out this year, and
Yep.
they're kind of like a modernized version of this. And I feel like it's
Very
just like
similar.
you might as well have just went with the classic throwback and just went back to that uniform because that to me it's one of the best uniforms in history.
I totally agree with that.
I would love this.
Smash super hard. That's a great uniform. And we've seen it for years. We have not had NBA players. Auburn's not had a lot of NBA players in the last 20 or 30 or 40 years, even. We just haven't had for me. But if you're going to be repping it's Charles Barkley and it's that Suns jersey every single time, you're not seeing 6 jerseys out there. It's the retro Suns jersey every time.
It's that one. That's what he's known for.
Yeah. So Derrick, we really appreciate you coming on. I know we took you on here for a while. I had 2 more things before we let you go. Just want to give you a chance to talk about anything you wanted to, if you wanted to shout out anything, if Auburn fans didn't know anything. And then the last question before you go is, what is your favorite uniform all time? Not just Auburn, like that uniform you think of, you're like, man, a genius of an artist of jerseys made this. So shout out to whatever you want to shout out in that.
Yeah. Well, definitely I'm gonna shout out Under Armour, give me the opportunity to get to do what I love. And shout out my team, apparel designers, product line managers, everyone involved who basically get a chance to make this happen and put out things that are, we're talking about a cycle that's going to last 4 or 5 years. That's an era of time, where all of our schools are in these uniforms that we create. So you're kind of like stamping your place in history, and my uniforms will be in Clint's database. So
yes, it will be.
I think stuff like that is pretty dope. I can one day show my kids and be like, yeah, that guy playing right there, yeah, he did that. You know what I mean? He did that in my jersey. So that type of stuff is all love. But yeah, those are my shout outs. And shout out to you guys. Like this is fun. This is dope. Like I love talking about jerseys. I love nerding out on stuff like that because you can't really nerd out with too many people like that unless they're like a niche.
We've got the best person to nerd out with in the entire country on this podcast with you. So yeah.
Yeah, like this is my wheelhouse is nerding out on uniforms. Like doesn't matter the sport or the league. So
I'm gonna get with you separately as well, so we can continue to nerd out.
nice. Definitely connect.
What is your favorite jersey of all time? And it doesn't have to just be basketball either. Any jersey of all time that you see that and it just, man, if a genius created that.
You know what? I can't lie. I'm incredibly biased. I am born and raised Columbus, Ohio. So go Bucks. And my favorite jersey is our home scarlet and gray Ohio State Buckeyes jersey. And I'm going to go with the 90s era where our pants were still silver. They called us silver bullets. The pants were still silver, not a light gray. And the jerseys actually had gray stripes in them because they took the gray stripes out in 2006. And for a couple of years, we were pissed off because they was like, oh man, they're making us look like Wisconsin or something, because they took out our gray. And then, we got used to it over time, but we get a chance to wear that uniform every bowl game we have. And we've been doing that for probably since 2014. Anytime we get into the playoffs, we wear the different gray striped jersey. So that would be my all-time favorite.
So with Ohio State, it has to be early season helmet or late season helmet. Do you want a lot of merit decals or do you want none at all?
The perfect helmet is the last helmet.
I like that.
Okay, no, wait, hang on. I have to ask this because I don't get to have this conversation with a lot of people. What is the deal with the alt unis for the big game? Like all of a sudden they're breaking out these weird uniforms to play their biggest rival at the end of the year.
So that's the classic uniform. So that is the uniform. So they call it the 68 uniform because that was the one that they won the championship in 68. But it was the uniform that we had for like 30, 40 years until they took out the gray. Like if you
I'm talking about the ones where they showed up to the big house and they were wearing like the white jerseys, but they had white pants and black helmets, and it was like a look they'd never rocked
Oh,
before.
you're talking about. Oh, okay,
Oh,
okay.
you got the
Yeah,
gray
yeah,
ones
yeah.
coming this year too.
Oh yeah, like you know what? I'm a fan of some of them when they're well done. I wasn't as big of a fan of the all scarlet last year. And I wasn't that much of a fan. I like the way it looks off field, the black jerseys, the black uniform, but I'm not really a fan of a black uniform. I feel like it's kind of black for black's sake. I feel like so many schools do that anyway. They just do a black jersey. Was not
That
a
is the
fan
most
of,
uniform guy thing you've ever said. The black for black's sake thing.
yeah, not a black for black segment. Like especially teams that don't even have black in the uniform.
Yeah, who?
Tennessee coming out in the all blacks a couple years back. So
I'm not a fan. I know it's big and social media goes crazy over it, but it's just like it gets old. I do like the new gray that we'll be wearing this year. It'll be an all gray uniform. If you had to tell me that without me actually looking at it, I'd probably be like, hell no. But after taking a look at it, like we're known for our scarlet and gray. So
it's a hard one to pull off, and I feel like this one actually pulls it off well.
Yeah. Actually, I have the helmet. I got gifted that by one of my old managers. That uniform that you just looked at. It's like a camouflage helmet. That was from 2017.
That was the wolf. Was it the wolf gray?
Yeah, those are wolf gray. Yeah, I've got that. I've got the helmet actually right here. I will grab that.
Damn.
There we go.
That's a good looking helmet.
All right, put it on.
Nah. As a bar.
Oh, you get the bar.
Yeah. Well, this is nice. I love this, man.
Well, Derrick, much for coming on, and Clint, if you can stay on a little longer, if you have time.
Well, actually, hang on. Before Derrick goes, we've invoked his name a lot. We've invoked his throwback jersey. We even zoomed in on his crotch to look at his shorts at one point. Derrick, you've been an amazing guest, but we have our white whale is still out there. So we need you to look into the camera and say, Sir Charles Barkley, please come on the Auburn Jungle podcast.
Sir Charles Barkley, please come on the Auburn Jungle podcast. If you don't, it'll be terrible.
Oh, that'll get him. This will get him. I love it. Thanks, Derrick. We really appreciate it. Clint, stay on if you can.
Absolutely.
Enjoyed
it, Derrick.
Appreciate the time, man. I love this, man. Thank you. All right, take care.
Bye, guys.
No, Clint, stay on if you can.
I got you.
Clint, man, I hope you found a lifelong friend there.
Absolutely.
Been a good connection. And I wanted to keep you on, and I longer Ben and Matt have, hopefully a little bit longer, just because I wanted to keep diving deeper a little bit into Auburn stuff. But I didn't want to we already had Derrick on for so long. I felt bad for keeping him on any longer. I know you have a whole closet back there full. I know you showed your 2002. I'd love to see some more out of your closet. I'd love to just anything you want to talk about uniform wise. We'd love to hear it.
I mean, we can do that.
Well,
so
what were your takeaways, Clint? I mean, what did you hear that piqued your interest there?
The information about the new uniforms is always I've got a notepad open with information that I'll be working on later tonight. So, it's always one of my favorite things to do, just even outside of uniforms, is just I love to understand how things work. What do you not see unless you're actually inside that room working on it? Whether it's, it could be literally anything. I just enjoy seeing those things that you don't see every day, how things are made, how things work, that kind of stuff. So, seeing kind of the inside of the process as much as we got tonight was always fascinating. And just what piques Derrick's interest, it's always nice to meet somebody else that enjoys this niche as much as I do, because just proof that you're not the only one, not the only crazy out there that enjoys this.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Show us what you got. Show us some good stuff.
So you can see a couple helmets back here behind me. That one on the bottom is actually a game worn from, I think, 99 or 2000. The other three were custom built by me, just to round out the collection. I got a couple more over here. I don't have a whole lot of the modern basketball uniforms in my collection, but if you remember Bruce's first year with, I don't know if it's going to show up very well on camera, but that sublimated tiger striping at the bottom of these, the shorts also matched. But this was Alex Thompson's game jersey. complete with the Anthony Mason memorial patch on it. Man, this one was a lot of fun to get in the collection.
Man,
So,
jerseys tell so much, like the Mason stuff. I'm blanking on his first, and like it just brings back the memories of players that you just completely forgot about. Like, and moments in time that seasons just keep going and things happen and storylines happen, and like his dad dying during the season was such a big deal, and I had forgotten. But then you bring something like that back up, and you're like, oh my, history just that comes from this. Yeah,
I wish I had the blue colorway, because that was what was worn at Texas A&M when Anthony passed away, and the Texas A&M equipment managers actually put those memorial patches on the Auburn jerseys, and then of course that was worn. The blues were worn during that incredible SEC tournament run, and KT Harrell's amazing. So that one, just it's all that memory that comes back to him. But we've also got back here just the Glomberado wall, all sorts of just interesting tidbits behind me. But I showed some of you guys on before we went live the closet of mystery.
Oh,
With it's still a mess.
Some the War Eagle reader guy or somebody out there that's like just as obsessed as you are about this is like, there it is. There's the vault. I'm gonna break into the house and get it. That's where the good stuff is.
I mean, we've got game worn historic baseball jerseys from the 80s right here. I don't know,
folks. If you don't follow along on YouTube, this is an episode to watch for sure. A lot of visual stuff happening.
And we don't usually go super visual on this, but hey, sometimes you got
there you go, Jackson. Look.
I almost brought it up to Derrick. We already pushed so hard on the Tiger strip, but I was like, the drop on a basketball uniform would look great also. And I'm not going to say the F word here, but it needs to be brought back also. And I loved your statement about building a vintage uniform because people are so funny about our uniform, especially on the F word side, and build it a little at the historical reference. Then all of a sudden it becomes a lot more acceptable if you have a basis, a reason to do it other than like, let's make everything orange or blue helmet.
Here's Hal Baird, and baseball loved his vest, and so this one's from late 90s, early 2000s, and then in 2015 we brought it back with the coach who should not be mentioned, Sonny Galloway, and it's a modern take on it, and I love a good vest as much as anybody else, but it's just, this is the story, this is the connection, this is the history, that you don't get to see a whole lot anymore without kind of throwing it back to ththese looks. So,
and do you see something like that, Clint, and like immediately you're like, okay, how am I gonna I like, what's the last thing you saw that Auburn did in a uniform that you're like, okay, I have to find a way to trace that or source that somehow?
Yeah. All of it. The Auburn uniform database is accurate as possible. Every detail matters. So, I'll redraw the templates and get those nice and clean. And then, like the current set of basketball uniforms we've been wearing have a very specific mesh pattern that is a proprietary Under Armour design. So I had to go and find that and pattern it across the entire uniform. It's the Alex Thompson one is it's a little brighter of an orange. It's not that true burnt orange. So that's always difficult. The side striping has, this kind of T shape to it. So, everything anytime there's a new uniform out, it's like, dang it, how am I going to Photoshop that one?
And one of my favorite things
stripe ones were a nightmare. So
you've got so many great jerseys in there. And I find sometimes myself looking at Auburn jerseys, especially basketball, the more iconic the team, the bigger the team, the Yankees or whoever else, they are going to have every alt invented somewhere. Someone has gone back and seen the 1933 Yankees jersey or whatever, and is going to resell it, and you can find it somewhere. Auburn basketball, if you find a good one that's cool and vintage, like that's the one I like, you're not going to find anybody that sells that. Are there any like particular ones you've seen in the books or in general in the vintage stuff, and you're like, man, I want that. There's no way in the world anyone's ever going to sell that. It's just like lost in time from a physical standpoint. Like it doesn't even exist. There's no museum with it probably even in it.
Well, funny you say museum. That's kind of one of the pipe dreams, is to get all of this in a collection that you guys and anybody else can come see. That would be so cool if that could happen. But I mean, yes, as a collector, there are so many white whales that I want to get. You know, I had my eyes set on a, you know, Dud Barfield 1970s orange football jersey. Those are just impossible to find. Rumor is that when Pat Dye came in, he said, "I hate orange, throw them away," and they burnt them all. So good luck finding any of those.
Why would they burn them? Who do it? Like it sounds like
so. But that's actually a huge thing in fashion, where if you've worked with fashion brands, when they have seasonal releases, items that they don't sell off, they destroy for that exact reason of increasing the resale value and increasing the historical value.
1970s Doug Bar jerseys where Russell was like, you got to burn them.
I mean, that's kind of the struggle with what I've tried to accomplish, is just, you know, it's only within the last couple of years that you see the care to archive everything, you know, and what was popular in the 80s and 90s was just not really archived very well. And that's been one of the hurdles that the AUD has had to overcome. And I think it's more so that it is, you know, wanting to drive up that demand. They weren't thinking about that. Auburn wasn't thinking about how could I get my money out of these orange jerseys. They were just thinking of, we got to get rid of these, and it's either going to go in a landfill or we're going to burn them or something. And that's just the reality of it. You know, Auburn also wore green jerseys in the 1930s, and those are never going to make an appearance on eBay as much as I want them to. And if they do, I'll have to go talk to my banker about buying one of those. So
well, at that point, is there even like you are the market?
I am the market.
The crazy part about that is that even back in the 80s and all, we were begging for Alabama to come play in our F-ball stadium. You know, I gotta like, so like there was a certain like treating the sport almost like your high school would have treated the sport. Like if me and Ben went to high school together, if we had worn some alt jersey in the whatever, they would have just sold some other smaller high school, or if they couldn't get it sold, they would have trashed it or given it away to whoever else. I'm sure those orange jerseys and Doug Barfield, that's probably what they did. They probably kept it in some room for a year or two. We need the storage space. Try to sell them to some high school team. If they don't buy them to the thrift store, they're just gone. You have to like play detective to trace this stuff down.
Absolutely.
Right?
And that's what makes it difficult. Again, just the stuff wasn't documented. You know, who thinks about putting in paper what you did with the jerseys in 1975? Nobody really cares. You know, it wasn't, the reporting is bad, the documentation is non-existent, and trying to dive down those rabbit holes is what makes it difficult, but also makes it fun. You know, even just, I try to find photographic evidence of every single game so that I can point to it and say, I know what Auburn wore in this basketball game in 1938. And when I go digging and I'm hitting every roadblock, like the euphorium that you hit when you finally find what you've been looking for is such a high, and it's such an enjoyable feeling, and it's what keeps me going for a lot of this. But you know, I check eBay every day for new uniforms and snatching them up when I can, and thankfully it's not a very competitive marketplace, so these things aren't all that expensive
Are you
right now. So stay off of eBay.
Are you like at Auburn Saturdays and basketball games, basically? Are you binoculars, like looking at the fans, like who has something I haven't seen before? Like Matt's dad showed up on our pod like a year ago in this like vintage, mid 2000 or maybe 90s even jersey that I was like, you the only person that still has that basketball. Like who still are you looking around for like, holy crap, that 70-year-old granddad is wearing this hat or that shirt or this jersey that he probably has no idea is like one of one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at one of the F-ball games last year, maybe the year before, there was this older gentleman who was walking around in the Barfield era orange jersey, and I had to go up to him. It's like, how did you get this? Tell me about this. And And if you know me, I don't like to approach people, but this one was special. And he was a manager or a player on the team, and he's kept it all this time. And it was a throwback weekend. So he decided to break it out, and took everything in me to not offer him a couple $100 for it right there on the spot. But yeah, at the basketball games, it's the same thing. Just looking around at the crowd, seeing what catches my eye, and you'll see a lot of knockoff jerseys and a lot of vintage jerseys that with basketball especially, it's kind of hard to tell, is it game worn or is it a fan retail jersey? With football, it's a little easier to tell, but I would be lying if I said I haven't thought about offering people some cash on the spot.
Yeah, did you exchange info with the Doug Barfield guy?
I did not.
I mean, you said you wanted one so bad,
I know. I did not. He had his grandkids with him, and they were rushing off for something, so I didn't want to bother him too much longer. But I do have one prospect in that jersey, so I'm holding out on hope that I might be able to grab that one day.
Is that like the biggest? That was the say before we sign off and move on. Is that like, has there been these moments? I mean, I know there's like some people like this, like Jeremy from War Eagle Reader. I'm sure there's people that work in the university that do some of his history stuff. Has there been like a big moment in the last 10 years UD started that's been like, wow, we didn't think anymore. This is like, we just found a treasure buried somewhere. Like you said, that Doug Barfield one, I'm sure was huge, but has there been any other moments where you're like, holy crap, they found that? Where was it? Yeah.
So, I mean, kind of nothing that's, finding thousands of ET Atari games in the LA desert, like nothing like that. That's groundbreaking for everybody. But, I love the details. I love the things that nobody else thinks about. So like, digging into the green jersey history, digging into how often the orange jerseys actually were worn. I interviewed a guy named Randy Brown last year or the year before, and if you remember the Doug Barfield era, they wore these eagle designs on the back of their helmets, and he designed that. He designed a couple of other logos that a lot of Auburn fans would recognize and remember. And so I got to sit down with him and actually learn his story, and that's an article on the website right now. And actually, his son is now producing some merch with the logo on it and getting this out there in the world. But Randy, it was his senior thesis art project, was to kind of rebrand the Auburn team, and he created a full uniform by hand sewn. He sewed this logo onto the sleeves of the jersey, and he says he's got them somewhere, and I cannot wait to finally see those in person. Those things haven't seen the light of day since, I don't know, 77. So bringing those stories back is what I love to tell.
I think we're all looking forward to seeing what the uniforms are going to look like on the basketball team next year. It's been a good couple of years. I enjoy these designs, but I'm excited for us to be doing something that once again is kind of honoring our history as a basketball program.
I agree. I'm as soon as we get off of here and I go have dinner, I'm going to be mocking these up and seeing how they look. So stay tuned to the Auburn Uniform Database social media.
The excitement is palpable, honestly. Like I really enjoyed. I love fashion. I enjoyed that whole conversation with Derrick. I enjoyed the passion coming from Clint. I think this was. We'll see if it translates super well on a podcast. I hope the people on the live stream enjoyed it, and I hope if you listen to the podcast, you've made it this long. Holy crap. Thank you. And check out the live YouTubes. We'll keep posting them after every game. It'll be easier when the games start. You'll know that after every live, and hopefully we'll have some more interviews coming up in the next couple of weeks and months leading up to the season. And Clint, thank you so much for coming on. Matt, Ben, everybody, War Eagle.
War Eagle.
War Eagle. Thanks, Clint.
War Eagle boys.
Appreciate it, guys.